We spend so much time, I think, looking at the event, the explosion, the discovery of a breach in a
Or
relationship.
fallout, yeah.
Exactly. But that's never really the beginning of the story, is it? It's more like the final punctuation mark on a process that's been running quietly in the background for a long time.
Weeks, sometimes months.
So today, let's unpack that. We're going to do a deep dive into what we could call the architecture of emotional migration. How does that fundamental shift in focus begin? Not with, a physical meeting, but with simple words on a screen.
It's such a fundamental misunderstanding, that focus on the physical. It's this assumption that if you're physically distant from someone, then everything is fine. Fidelity is guaranteed.
Right.
But in my work, what I see time and again is that the most seismic betrayals, they begin internally. It's an emotional shift. And then, very precisely, a biochemical one.
So that's our mission today, to trace that exact progression, to sort of map out the blueprint of how those emotional boundaries begin to erode.
Often without the person even realizing they've drifted from the harbor.
And that harbor is so cleverly designed to feel safe at first. That's the subtle trap, isn't it?
Absolutely.
These emotional migrations, they almost always start under the perfect camouflage of a benign label.
Oh, yes. We're just colleagues.
We work late together, or it's just an old friend I reconnected with.
That label is a powerful psychological safety mechanism.
Yeah.
It's not just to prevent suspicion from the partner.
No, it's for yourself.
It's primarily for the self. It allows the behavior to continue without setting off internal alarms.
And the initial interactions, they reinforce that safety.
Oh, completely. The
Yeah.
banality of it is key. If you analyze the opening stages, the content is almost boringly safe.
What are they talking about?
Trivialities.
Yeah.
The ridiculous memo that went around the office, how annoying the commute was, what they had for lunch.
Right. Nothing you couldn't say to anyone.
The content is specifically designed to be unremarkable. And that is so essential because the innocuous nature, that's what builds the foundation of routine. It's the comfortable, non-threatening repetition.
That's the psychological bridge.
That's the bridge. You have to walk across that bridge 100 times talking about the weather before you can even think about carrying any real emotional weight across it.
And that routine is the real danger, not the content. And to get why that works so powerfully, we have to look at how we're wired.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly, from a cultural perspective, women often organize their entire lives, their internal world, through feeling and language, the act of sharing the small details of the day.
The emotional texture of the day.
Yes, that's a core way of feeling seen, of feeling connected.
And that's a critical point. Language as the vehicle. It's how connection is built and how emotions are processed, especially in that female relational space. So if that routine, that sharing of small but vital details,
If that establishes itself with an external person,
instead of the primary partner, yes, then the rerouting of emotional energy begins. It's subtle, it's quiet, but the investment is being transferred, minute by minute, text by text.
and that shift is so gradual. It's like
Yeah.
like you said, a slow drift. Until you hit that critical point, that's when the emotional supply really changes hands. So when does it stop being just chit-chat and become genuinely dangerous?
The danger accelerates when the conversation pivots, when it moves from the trivial to the deeply personal.
So sharing private joys.
Private joys, profound sadnesses, frustrations with your family, and then the most dangerous shift of all.
Complaining about the main relationship.
Expressing discontent about the primary committed relationship. That's what we call spiritual disengagement.
Okay, let's define that in behavioral terms for a second, because that phrase is so powerful. What does spiritual disengagement actually look like?
It means you stop sharing your future plans with your partner. It means you hold back your vulnerable thoughts. Instead of turning inward to your spouse when something big happens, good or bad,
You turn outward.
you turn outward to the new listener. The emotional center of gravity has, at that point, fundamentally shifted. The fuel that runs the main relationship is now being siphoned off.
And I see the dynamic of the complaint as just central to this. Think about the friction in any long-term relationship. Money, kids, logistics, just the sheer monotony of it all.
Of course.
So when a woman starts venting about her partner to this new person and his response is just deep validation, sympathy, no judgment, that is a huge psychological reward.
It's the contrast. The contrast makes it incredibly potent. Her primary partner hears that complaint for the 100th time, and he's probably exhausted. He might get defensive.
Or just say, can we not talk about this again?
Just handle it. He offers friction. But the external listener, He has no baggage. He's not involved. So he can just say, wow, that sounds so frustrating. You deserve to be heard. I see you.
And that validation is immediate. It's clean. It's satisfying. So it's not really about communication anymore.
No, it's an emotional supply. It becomes a reliable, potent source. And you become addicted to that feeling of being perfectly understood without any of the messy reality of actually solving the problem.
So that's the real betrayal right there. The emotional infrastructure has already been replaced.
It is. The implication then is that if she is routinely venting frustrations about her partner to this other person, and he is consistently sympathetic, the emotional contract of the marriage is already broken.
So it's no longer a question of if something physical will happen.
It's just a question of when. The door to physical intimacy is basically ajar at that point because the foundation of emotional loyalty is already gone.
Which brings us to the delivery system for this addiction, the text message. Why is just messaging back and forth so incredibly potent? It's not just weak will.
No, not at all. You have to frame it as a genuine biochemical reaction.
Okay.
The unique danger of texting is its mechanism. It delays what we call intermittent reinforcement. A face-to-face chat is constant, predictable. A text, it comes on a variable schedule.
So you send the message.
And then you wait. And that waiting period, that anticipation, it spikes your cortisol, your adrenaline. And then you hear that ping, the notification.
And the relief.
It's more than relief.
Yeah.
The reception of that message delivers a concentrated, exquisite dose of dopamine.
The anticipation chemical. It's not just for happiness. It's the chemical of seeking, of motivation.
Precisely. That cycle anticipation and reward, it perfectly mirrors the chemical rush of a brand new, exhilarating, highly addictive romantic attachment. It's fast, it's concentrated, and you can repeat it all day long.
And if you want to see a clear sign that this chemical addiction is running the show, just watch the physical behavior.
Yes.
That telltale, almost secret smile while they're looking at their phone, the way they angle the screen away, or that restless anxiety constantly checking if a message isn't answered right away.
That's not friendship.
No. That is a physiological love response, optimized by dopamine.
And this whole mechanism creates a profound cognitive divide, a dual existence. Physically, she might be there, making dinner, going to a parent-teacher conference.
Her body is in the marriage.
Her body is in the marriage. But her emotional energy, her soul, her vital attention is somewhere else entirely. She is cultivating what we call a secret garden.
Explain that, the secret garden.
It's that psychological space where she feels heard, special, consistently indulged. And crucially, it's a space that counteracts the emotional erosion of daily married life.
Where the conversations are about money and bills and groceries.
Exactly. All the logistics. In the secret garden, there are no dirty dishes. There are no financial arguments. There is only pure, unadulterated validation delivered efficiently through a screen.
A space divorced from reality, which makes it so appealing.
Infinitely appealing. The primary partner is left shouldering the burden of reality, while the external listener gets all the emotional upside with none of the cost.
So this leads us to the motivations of the people in this dynamic. They're often not symmetrical, and there's a lot of rationalization going on.
A great deal.
Let's look at the man, the external listener. His motivation is often framed as, well, this inherent male hunting instinct.
And we have to be blunt here. No one, man or woman, invests that much emotional labor, late-night texts, constant sympathy, just out of charity.
The investment of time and emotional currency it's a calculation. Even if it's a subconscious one, the ultimate goal, driven by ego or a desire for intimacy, is to disrupt the existing structure. His reward is feeling like he won.
But I want to add some nuance there, because saying it's just about physical conquest feels a bit too simple. What about the man who is also deeply lonely, the man who is getting his own immense emotional validation from being the rescuer, the confidant?
That's an essential correction, you're right. It is more complex. His motivation often involves a desire to be emotionally needed, a role that maybe his own primary relationship isn't giving him.
He's getting his own fix.
He's getting his own fix. But even with that complexity, the dynamic is still built on the idea of crossing a boundary. The validation he gets comes from the intimacy of that secret, shared space.
Okay, so on the other side, you have the female rationale, and this is often where the pure friendship argument comes into play. Yes, deployed as a shield.
And that narrative can mask a deeper emotional hunger. Some might even call it an emotional greed, a desire to have both roles filled at once.
She gets to enjoy the ambiguity, The ego boost of being desired, of being fought for, this stimulating, subtle flirtation that's always just under the surface of the conversation.
Right. She's outsourcing her emotional needs without having to face the moral consequences.
Because she can always fall back on the defense, we're just friends. That ambiguity allows her to get the maximum emotional benefit, the validation, the dopamine, while maintaining plausible deniability physically.
And the whole thing eventually collapses when they run out of safe things to talk about.
Exactly. As the bond deepens, as the emotional vault is emptied, the topics have to become more sensitive, more private.
And eventually, yes, sexual or inappropriate.
And that's the final insight. The psychological boundary is the only firewall that actually matters. Once the conversation moves from general topics to highly sensitive, deeply private, or explicitly 18-plus subject matter,
Once that's crossed in thought and word.
the psychological intimacy is complete. They are sharing a cognitive and emotional space that should be reserved for a spouse.
And at that point, once that psychological boundary is shattered, the physical one is just a formality, a sheet of tissue paper.
The emotional architecture has been fully transferred. The physical act is often just the final acknowledgement of where the relationship already lives, internally and chemically.
So if we take all of this, the dopamine, the complaint culture, the emotional migration, what does this mean for you, the listener, who wants to proactively manage this risk in your own relationship?
It means that control has to start long before any physical line is even on the horizon. Risk management begins at the level of the text message.
At the attitude toward the device.
Yes. You have to recognize that subtle emotional shift in yourself, that desire to confide in someone else, to seek that external validation, to get that dopamine hit from an outside source, and you have to actively redirect that impulse back inward.
Don't wait for the event to be surprised.
The surprise is happening in the silence between the texts that are not being shared with your partner.
This forces us to ask some really tough questions about how we maintain our primary relationships. If emotional disengagement is the true first step of betrayal, then the opposite must be the ultimate defense.
It is.
So for you listening, the ultimate protection against this emotional migration isn't surveillance, it's not paranoia.
It's a radical investment.
Yep.
A conscious, consistent, vulnerable investment in shared verbal intimacy within the primary relationship. You have to make that central emotional space the most rewarding, the most validating, the safest place to bring everything.
You have to outcompete the convenience of the external connection.
You must.
So the provocative thought we want to leave you with is this. Consider the energy, the vulnerability, and the attention you give to the easy, stimulating validation from outside connections or potential ones, and then compare that to the sometimes difficult, sometimes boring, but absolutely vital emotional maintenance you dedicate to your primary committed relationship. In your own life, right now, which garden are you truly nourishing?